Anybody? Oh, now. How's he yell? Who's all in?
Any Clemson fans?
Any Bulldog fans?
Any Jesus fans?
You know, you wonder why they come to church. Why are you guys so noisy? Well, we're fans.
That's right.
We're fans. A group of people asked Jesus one time to tell his fans to quiet down. He was riding a donkey and he was on his way into Jerusalem, and they were going nuts. They were taking off the robes and laying them down in front of him, and cutting down palm branches and putting them on the ground and singing Hosanna to God in the highest, and they were just getting with it. And them old crusty Pharisees went over there and said, hey, don't you know these people are making a fool? And you know what Jesus said? If these would hold their peace, these rocks would begin to cry out. I'm not ashamed of who Jesus is. I'm a fan. When I get around Jesus, people start talking about Jesus, you're going to see the fan come out of me. Amen. I'm on the Lord's side. Hallelujah. I'm glad to be in his house today. Amen. I'm not going to get into my message right away. You may be seated. Smile real big at somebody next to you. Amen. Real big. I wish I had a Rosemary smile. She'd light up a room. Praise God. I have a dear friend here from Seattle, Washington, actually Tacoma. And we grew up together. And I grew old and he just grew older. And we had been friends from before I was married. And we met in a little dairy. We were bottling 1/2 gallons of milk. He was bottling 1/2 gallons of milk. I was spilling milk everywhere and making a mess. And then, but I'm so glad to have my friend Brad Oben. Brad, I want you to come up here. And you don't want to, but now I've got the microphone. You have to just come up and say a few words.
Certainly wasn't planning on testifying from up here. To Matt's point, the rocks crying out. There's another situation where there was a man in need. His name was Bartimaeus. And never be ashamed when you have a need. They told him to quiet down. He cried all the louder.
Yes.
Jesus, the Son of David,
Yes.
have mercy on me.
Mercy.
Yep.
Never be ashamed. Never be ashamed.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're in a church today, and I feel the presence of God in this place. The song that Sister Bernard was singing, when I think about the Lord, how He saved me, how He raised me,
Yes.
how He picked me up, He turned me around, He placed my feet on solid ground. You may be in a valley today. You may be on a mountaintop today. I don't know where you're at, but one thing's for sure, is things are going to change.
Yep.
And, I've been serving the Lord for about 30 years now. Matt brought me to God. I thought I knew about Jesus. This man here is on fire for God. He has not changed. One thing I promise you. This man loves you. I've been through thick and thin, made some mistakes in my life, ups and downs, valleys, mountaintops. And one man has always loved me. I can always count on this man here. I've been in a lot of churches. I've been in many churches, and I've seen a lot of men, and I don't want to bash on anybody. I've seen a lot of men that were behind the pulpit. They were called pastor because of maybe they were family, or they were promoted, or they went to Bible school. But always felt like anybody who was going to be a licensed pastor should be doing the work before they got licensed. And I can promise you, you will never find a greater soul winner than people that loves, or someone that loves people more than this man and this lady right here. You're in very good hands. I'm glad to be here today to worship with y'all, and I'm going to try to be back here tonight. I got a couple of things that I might do, because there's y'all know the Lamatinas. Some of you might, but it's Tony's birthday, so I might be over there tonight. But really glad to be with you. It's really a blessing, and thanks for this opportunity.
Buying dinner, and he just wanted to make sure it was a good one. So appreciate the kind words. Yes, three beautiful children and a couple of lovely grandchildren. You have to have children in order to have grandchildren, so there's a price to be paid.
Amen.
For us to have grandchildren, have paid the price, and we're living the life. Amen. Praise God. Remember Sarah, she's at the hospital, and Howard just left to go over there and be with his wife, and we will be after baptismal jetting over there to be with my daughter. My wife had her gallbladder out almost the exact same age as Sarah. I waited until I was 47, but it's not terribly bad, but it's not exactly comfortable when they catch up with a knife and pull something out. But we know that God has his hand on her, and he will do a work in her body, and this is just needful. You know, she's been in pain. She said, "Dad, rub my back." She's been saying that for a couple of months because her back was hurting. Little did we know that that's where your gallbladder gets you, is right in the back. So, amen. We'll be praying for her. Turn to your neighbor and say, "Have compassion." Now turn to your other neighbor and say, "Have compassion." Amen. How many know that compassion is truly one of the hardest things to have? We think we're compassionate. We really do, until somebody pushes their buggy in front of ours at the Bilo and cuts in line, and then all you want to do is run over with your car. Have somebody pulling the drive-through just one car ahead of you and cut you off, and that compassion goes out the door. Your compassion is usually something that is reserved for your family and your friends. Maybe you've seen something on television, and there was an incident with a person that was suffering, something happened, and so you felt compassion. But to truly have compassion for people, you must first love people. And if you don't love people, you won't be compassionate. I will tell you one thing about video games that bugs me is it teaches our children not to have mercy or compassion. Because they sit there killing people one after another, after another, after another. And so in their mind, there's no compassion for people or compassion for life. You know, I'm generalizing when I say this, but a parent that sees a child, whether their own or another, in need, will be in a hurry to make sure that child is taken care of. I've been in a store when a little child has lost sight of their parent, and I can see the terror in their eyes. And because I'm a parent, in my heart, I'm feeling like, oh, that poor kid that lost their parent. Hey, somebody lost a kid? And mom's hand will pop around there. Like, yeah, where's John? Compassion is something that you do have, but it is hard to exercise. Sometimes you get overloaded with compassion. You try to do too much for too many, and you weary yourself out with compassion. But today I'm going to be preaching, and I won't be long. I'm going to baptize prayer now, but I do want to push this point to you, and I pray God does something with it. If you'd stand just one more time, we're going to read a passage in Matthew chapter 9, verse 35. Matthew 9:35, and Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitude, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted. Everybody say compassion. Because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Then saith he unto his disciples, truly the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth laborers into the harvest. Amen. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for your mercy, your grace, your precious word. Touch our hearts, our ears. Help us, oh God, to learn and to hear. God, help us to develop, to be strong Christians, to understand your word. God, the concepts in your word. God, learn compassion and brotherly love, and help us, God, reach this world that is lost, I pray. God, in Jesus' beautiful name. Amen. If you smile real big at your neighbor, you may be seated. Amen. Praise God. I have told this story many times, and I'll probably continue to tell it, but it's appropriate right here. And I want you to get the concept of what I'm preaching. And there was a young couple, and they had got up early in the morning, and they went out to a beach, and the beach was just covered in starfish. Covered. There were tens of thousands of starfish. And an old man was walking along on the beach, and he would reach down and he would pick one up, and he would fling it back out into the ocean. And the young couple came up to him, and the woman said, "Sir, can't you see that what you're doing is really meaningless?" And the old man waited, and he went down and picked up a starfish, and he said, "It means something to this one. You can't reach the world." Now, had somebody had their texting engaged and texted about 400 friends, they could have had a starfish saving party. That's our mentality, that what I have to offer is meaningless to the world. Jesus is trying to teach a concept here when he preceding verses, he's healed 2 blind men, he's raised a young girl from the dead, he's done all these miracles, and the writer Matthew says, and he healed every sickness and every disease among the people. When God looks at a problem, he doesn't look at it like you or I. He looks at there's a need, and I'm trying to fulfill it. When he looked at all the people, and that word faint, in verse 36, it means to be prostrate and panting. Literally, like if you had ran a race and you were out of gas and you're just sitting there panting and trying to catch your breath, just wore out. And he looked at all those people, and the Bible says he had compassion on them. And when he saw them, it stirred something in his emotion. And he, being a man in the state that he was in, he could feel that overwhelming sense of, I need to do something, but the need is so great. Where do I even start? It's like going to a Clemson football game and you have promised to feed everyone. I do believe you have bit off more than you can chew. God looks at issues and he comes up with solutions. But because he no longer walks on this earth like you or I in a fleshly body, he looks to you and I to be his representative. How many people could one man win in a lifetime? Well, let's just say 100. Just 100 men. One man could win 100 men in his lifetime. Do the math on that. 100 men winning 100 men in one lifetime. Then do that 100 times 100 times 100. How many people could you reach in this world if you just determined in your mind, I can't save every starfish, called me to carry a message. But friend, if the message is not shared, it does not move, it does not function, it does not work, it does not save. He is appealing to his disciples. He's God in this role. He could have just said, hey, give me another 5 loaves and a couple of fish and we're going to feed everybody. Why don't you just go get that rock over there and I'm going to make it pour out water and every thirst will be satisfied. But friend, you have to at some point feel what the master is feeling. You see, when you don't have the responsibility of everyone, you don't feel that compassion. But when you have the responsibility of people, then you start to see, hey, I've got things I've got to take care of. You know, when you're on the job and maybe you're the owner of a company or you're a manager and you got people that are working for you, they come in and say, hey, I bought a new car. And another one says, I come in and bought a new house. And another one comes in and said, Dad, I thank you for this job you've allowed me to have. I'm sending my kids to college. You know, all of a sudden you realize the gravity of what you've done. Now you've got people's lives dependent on how good you can do your business. Jesus is trying to impress these disciples. You need to feel the weight of your calling. You need to see people not as people that aggravate you or frustrate you, but as they truly are. They are a living soul that will live in eternity somewhere. Yep. You know, it's easy to have compassion for a little toddler. Years ago, there was a young child that fell down into a well, and it was about an 8-inch round hole they drilled in the ground, and this little child fell in there. And they literally moved heaven and earth to get that child out of that well. The men would work until their hands, they couldn't even hold the jackhammer. They pulled down every fence. They had machinery on everybody's yard. They made a tent out there for people to rest in. They just tore the whole neighborhood up. Why? They were trying to save one child. Just one little child. Compassion is the most powerful force that will move you. Oh, you can say, I love people. I love people. I love my kids. But compassion for their situation makes me go to the hospital and make sure they're okay. Compassion for souls is what God is trying to press upon the disciples. And sometimes it's so easy to sit back and say, I've done my share of the work and I've witnessed to 2 or 3 people and God's given me a good life and my bills are paid and things are taken care of. Or maybe you're just in the middle of a struggle and I'm working and I've got school and I've got all these things that are absorbing my time. And further important in the moment right then, they are. But if you'll step back and look at life, whether you have a degree or not will not really make that much difference in eternity. Whether you own another home or a bigger ranch or a better car, those things are yes, God can bless you with them and you can enjoy them. But friend, if your mind never gets past me and mine, you'll never engage what God has called you to do.
That's right.
Matthew 16 and 15, Jesus has come back and he has spent some time with his disciples and he has taught them and he has reminded and showed himself that he was powerful in God and overcame death and encouraged them to keep the faith and end up partying in Mark 16, 15. And he said unto them, Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. You see, the goal of our life, in the end, friend, they won't really, they'll say a few good things about you. They'll get up behind a pulpit and they'll say, well, he was a good man and you know, he was a good boss or he was a good father. He did a lot of good things. But friend, if you want to change the destiny of children and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren, I never knew my grandmother, but she was an apostolic woman of God. She got a picture holding me as a baby. I've never heard her voice. I can't remember. But I'm telling you, she this word on Monday, and I prayed because I knew Brad was coming and I'd be busy doing things and entertaining, but I've preached this message before, not like this. But I feel like sometimes if we would just take a portion of our energy, not everything. We have to work. I have to pay bills. I've got to go into work tomorrow. Some of you are retired. That's awesome. But you even got to cut the grass and trim the hedge and do the yard. Everybody has something to do because you have to live. We just have to live. And those are things that are needful. But if we could just get sight of what God has put in our heart, there is a hope and a joy. There's a promise. There's something that I have that if today was my last day, there wouldn't be some sadness, but there would be a great anticipation. There would be an excitement. Brother Monroe, this is your last day, isn't it? Really? This is the last day. This is the last time I have to suffer and go through what I'm going through. Yeah. Well, there's not some end to my life, but it's merely the beginning of existing. I really know when I open my eyes in heaven and I see the God that I've been serving with a zeal and hungry to know, and I see all that He's prepared, and my eyes behold heaven and all its glory. Friend, I look back and I'll think, did I do enough? Could I have told a friend? What about my children? The Bible says the rich man was in hell. The first thing he wanted to do, because he was selfish, was quench that fire. Lazarus, go put your finger in some water and touch my tongue, for I'm tormented. But then after that, he realized something. Oh man, somebody's got to tell my brothers. Somebody's got to get a desire to go tell someone, don't come here. Can you send Lazarus back and tell my brothers, don't come here. That this place is not a place of peace and of rest. There's something better. And Abraham tells the rich man, they've got the prophets. Let them hear them. Friend, I'm not trying to pressure you this morning, but you have an obligation. If God has saved your soul, you have an obligation to tell somebody. You are under an obligation to God. When the blood of Jesus wiped out everything in your life that drug you down, that kept you down, that destroyed you, that attacked your family, that wore you out, and that blood covered all that, and you walk in peace and in joy, and you can look up in heaven and not feel a thunderbolt or a hammer coming on your head. Man, there's got to be something. I've got to pay that God somehow. How do I do it? I find somebody else and say, there's a God that loves you more than you'll ever know. He had compassion on the multitude. He felt an unction, a desire. There has to be something in my heart. There has to be something. It's not just good enough, and I'm not trying to lay a bunch of pressure on you. I know many of us have circumstances that keep us tied up, and there's things that we just can't do. But friend, you can get on Facebook and post something good about Jesus and encourage your neighbor. You can pick up the telephone and call somebody you haven't seen for a while and ask them how they're doing and tell them, I was like that one time, but God came into my life and He changed so many things. He opened my eyes. He gave me understanding. I see that life is so short and eternity's forever. Your words are just your simple testimony. You mean so much to somebody else, but it takes compassion, feeling the burden, feeling the desire. Oh, that I could win the lost. It's not your job to worry about the outcome of what you say. If they don't come, they don't come. The Great Commission goes, all the world preach the gospel. They that believe shall be saved. They that don't believe. It's not your obligation to convert every soul. You just grab the ones you can. If they don't want to hear, don't make an enemy out of them. Just say, hey man, if you ever need me, if there ever comes a time in your life that you need somebody to talk to about God, if there's any time that you need me to pray, if there's anything I can do, because friend, I'll tell you, life brings enough struggle that an hour will come and the word that you spoke will be the only word of hope they have.
Hallelujah.
I remember Brother so-and-so saying that God could heal me, and I'm laying in the bed sick. I better call Brother so-and-so. Somebody once told me that Jesus could forgive sin and could take away this condemnation and guilt. I need to go to church and hear about Jesus. Compassion comes when you begin to worry more about others than you do about yourself. Children are the greatest tool of education God ever gave man. Something that drives you nuts, you love more than words can tell. And then He gives you grandchildren to teach you compassion. When my kids were small, I'd lay on the bed, throw them all around, and just pray they never hit their head. I threw them, tackled them, beat them. You know, until Sarah started to turn into a woman, and then I was like, well, I can't really do that anymore. Hey, baby. I'm not going to drop kick you out of bed tonight. I still played rough with Matt. But when I had grandbabies, I don't spank grandbaby. I have a yellow grandbaby. And friend, don't you touch my grandbabies. I've learned compassion. When my son wants to spank because they're being ornery, I just want to grab him and let me take this. Have an equal talk with Papa. Why? Because I have learned compassion. And when it comes to my children, I just want to impart that. There's not a moment where my children's cry would not stir my heart. My daughter sent me a text. Why does your children and your grandchildren affect you? It's the same reason why you affect God. There will be no prayer for somebody in that past that's just a hole in your heart. You say, God, I need you to intervene on my brother's heart right now. He's going through something he don't understand. He's broken and he's wounded. But God, he needs you right now more than anything. Right now, Jesus. What's moving you to that is compassion. And when you learn what compassion for those that are broken can do, you'll be like a magnet and people will be drawn to you just like they were drawn to Jesus. Why are these worshiping? Why do these make all the noise? Because you don't know what that man from Galilee did for me. You don't know where I was at when he said, woman, thy sins are all gone. When you taste the power of His mercy and compassion, it changes. It changes who you are and how you look at people. Move me, oh God, with compassion. Jude 1:20 says, but you, dear friends, must continue to build up your most holy faith for your own benefit. Furthermore, continue to pray in the Holy Spirit. Remain in God's love as you look for the mercy of our Lord Jesus, the Messiah, which brings eternal life. Show mercy to those who have doubt. Save others by snatching them out from the fire. One day you're going to get to heaven and you're going to hear a familiar voice of somebody that you had a brief encounter with just to pass on. But you felt to say something about God. And when they come to you and begin to say, you told me that He was a healer, and I believed it. And friend, you don't know the work that God's doing through the words that you speak. You just see around you, you just see the people day to day. But friend, I'll give you a little story. My dad, who's not here, I'll talk about him. My dad, greatest soul winner I know is my father. He won a man on a garbage truck in Benicia at the Exxon refinery. They were just running around there in a garbage truck. Started talking to him about God. Told him to be baptized in Jesus' name, filled with the Holy Ghost. Needed to live a repentant life. And then my dad quit and didn't see him again. I walked into a church in Concord, California. The pastor introduces us as brother and sister Monroe. This redhead gentleman comes running over to me, grabs my hand and says, "Is your dad's name Jim?" I said, "Yeah." He grabbed my neck and began to weep. He said, "Your dad wanted me to God. That's my wife, and those are my children." You never know what compassion will bring. You don't know the work you're doing in your own children's life. They may be rebels, they may be devils, but when they see you loving and compassion, someday the light's going to turn on. They're going to get to the bottom of the barrel. They're going to get in the gutter where they don't understand it no more. And they're going to remember, in my father's house, there was bread and there was contentment and I had clothing. And I need to go back to my father's house. The love and compassion you show your children will reap benefit and fruit in your life. But not just theirs. It's their children and their children's children. This is not just for us to have a great time and get to heaven. Friend, we got to establish something right here, right now, right today. As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. We shall be strong in the faith. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, but I feel like I'm more passionate than maybe you might think I need to be. But friend, I promise you, when it was my life on the line and somebody told me about Jesus, it was the greatest thing I had ever heard in my life. The day I got the Holy Ghost, it transformed me. Friend, I can tell you for Brad, he got the Holy Ghost and he ran outside the parking lot laying on the ground. It just started thanking God for all the stars and all that he was just on fire. You know why? Because when God drags you out of the gutter and does something great in you, and it transforms your heart and your mind, something you've never been able to do. It changes the destiny. And there's something stored in you that can never die. Never die. Never die. Honey, if you come play. 1 Peter 3:8. It says this, "Finally, be all of one mind, having compassion one for another. Love as brethren. Be pitiful. Be courteous." Is there a greater call that in life that I can make? Is there one greater that I would say, have compassion for your brothers? We're in desperate need of one another. I've had men in my life that have been just regular saints of God, just good people. James Sessions has ministered to me so many times. And when I wanted to quit, I was just a boy and I worked for him and he worked me to death. And would tease me that his daughter Leah could outwork me, and she probably could at that point. But after years of learning how to work with Brother Sessions, I went to other jobs and excelled. Because I'd be working half speed for Sessions, but wide open for them. They'd be thinking, man, this guy's incredible. Whoa. No, I had cut way back from the speed I worked for Brother Sessions. But his compassion for me as a child got into my soul. And to this day, when I see James Sessions, all I can do is hug his dad. Sister Sessions, I just want to hug him and love on him. Because words are more powerful than anything. Matt, you're going to make it. You're going to make it through this. You're going to be strong. Why? He was having compassion on a young man. He didn't know his destiny. He didn't know someday he'd be a preacher in a church. He just knew he was a soul and he was having compassion. Friend, we need to learn compassion, not just for the church, but when we go outside these walls and you have family members and friends, don't beat them with the gospel. It's not a hammer, friend. You don't need to beat people with the Word of God. You need to tell them first about the love of Jesus. You let God build the vessel, friend. You just stand in the house. You let God make you a Christian. You just give Him His presence. You let God do the times. And he was just a wide open kid. I loved him when he was. And often said I just didn't think he was going to make it. But you know what? I remember being in the prayer room with my arm around him and Brother Luke and just weeping and crying. And just the power of God was so strong. It was just incredible movements. And then he'd go back out and he's doing it. But somewhere in one of those environments, a seed was planted. And when life became a struggle, he remembered where to go. And now, he's a father of 3 beautiful children. He's on fire for God. He's done work in the ministry. His life has become a rose that has bloomed. And now he's a blessing to so many around him. But see, if I would have just treated him how he deserved to be treated, instead I had compassion on him, even though he didn't deserve it, he would probably not be the man he is today. I'm not saying I did. There's a lot of people involved, but get the concept. Your compassion and your mercy can change lives forever. Let's close our eyes. I want you just to, if you can, if you can lift your hands to Jesus and begin to talk to him and worship him. I'm going to open these altars in a few minutes, and it doesn't mean you're a sinner when you come down in prayer. It just means you want to stand before God and begin to worship and praise him and thank him. But as you raise your hands, begin to think about all that God has done for you. But just think about all the people that have ministered to you, that have reached out to you, that have touched you, all the words that were spoken by somebody in love to change the direction of your life. Just begin to raise your hands and worship him. And friend, when you begin to feel like you owe God something, come on down to this altar and we're going to pray for a few moments and we're going to worship the King. Hallelujah! 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 Jesus. Oh, I need you! I need you! I need you! Let's raise our hands, begin to worship him. Use your game voice.